This is William Michael of the Classical Liberal Arts Academy, and in this video I'd like to provide students with some help getting into Lesson 8 in the Academy's Latin Grammar 1 course. And in this lesson we'll be studying Articles 12, 13, and 14. Articles 12, 13, and 14, and you can see the subject of this lesson is quantity. So in Lesson 7, we studied the syllable. We learned about syllables, we learned how to divide a word into syllables, and we learned the names of the last 3 syllables of Latin words. In this lesson, we're going to learn about the quantity or the length of syllables. So the question is, how can we tell if a syllable is long or short? How can we tell if a syllable is long or short? Now, this is important for pronunciation simply because we should try to read the Latin words as the Romans would have read them to sound true to the Latin language. But there's another reason why this is important, and more important. In order to learn the rules for accent marks, we're going to have to identify whether a syllable is long or short. And I'll show you real quick, just so you understand this. If we look down to the next lesson, these rules for accent marks, we see a rule here. Polysyllabic words, that just means words that have multiple syllables, have the accent mark on the penult. We learned about the names of syllables in the last lesson. Polysyllabic words have the accent on the penult when the penult is long, but they have the accent on the antepenult when the penult is short. All right, so in order for us to know where the accent goes in a Latin word, we're going to have to be able to tell whether a syllable is long or short. That's going to determine where the accent mark goes. So here in this lesson, this is what we're learning. We're learning how to tell the quantity of a syllable. Okay, so in Articles 12, 13, and 14, we're going to learn the rules for identifying the quantity or length of a syllable. So part 1 here in Article 12, excuse me. In Article 12, we see rule number 1. A syllable is long by nature, and we'll see two different ways in which a syllable is long. A syllable can be long by nature, or down here we'll see that a syllable can be long by position. So either by nature or by position. A syllable is said to be long by nature when that syllable contains a long vowel or a diphthong. A syllable is said to be long by its own nature when it contains a long vowel or diphthong. So for example, we see the Latin word mos. It's made up of just one syllable, and it contains a long vowel. The vowel is actually marked by a long sign. So this is a long syllable. We should pronounce it with a little more time than a short syllable. So we would say mos, mos. In the second word here, we have 2 syllables. We're going to ignore this second syllable for now and just look at the first syllable. We see that the first syllable contains a diphthong. So again, this is why it's important to be able to identify the diphthongs when you see them. This first syllable contains a diphthong. That means that this first syllable is long by nature. A syllable is said to be long by nature when it contains a long vowel or a diphthong. Long vowel as in mos or a diphthong, as in che, che, a long syllable because it contains a diphthong. All right, that's rule number 1. Now, we've got some remarks here, and this can get pretty technical, and I don't want you to be distracted by this, but at the same time, I would like you to be familiar with the content. So let's just read through it. A vowel that comes before NF, NS, GM, or GN is long by nature. A vowel that comes before these combinations in a word is long by nature. So they give us some examples. Here we see the vowel E before the consonants NF. That means this rule tells us that that E and this syllable is long by nature. Infelix. So that's long by nature because it's followed by NF. Here we see the vowel E followed by NS, which is another one of these pairs of consonants. And so this rule tells us that E is long by nature here, so we'll pronounce it with more length. Mensa, mensa. Here we have the vowel A followed by GM, which is one of these pairs. So this will be a long syllable because it contains a long vowel by nature. Agmen, agmen. And here's another A before GN, agnus, agnus. All right, so some vowels are long and they're marked long, as we saw in mos. We have diphthongs are treated as long vowels, but vowels that come before these pairs of consonants are also considered long vowels. All right. Again, helpful to know this. Good to make yourself familiar with these detailed remarks, but don't let them overwhelm you. Stay focused on the general rule here, but become aware of some further details or exceptions to the rules. Okay? In many cases, we're told the N has disappeared from the written word over time. So again, we're getting into exceptions, and I don't want this to become distracting to you. So let's just skip over this and get down here to remark number 2. Now don't get confused here. This is remark number 2, not rule number 2. So this is part of the remarks. Here you see rule number 1, and down here you see rule number 2. Okay, so we've got this general rule here, rule 1, and then down here we've got this general rule 2. This is all part of the remarks. We learn a second remark here, a second point. Before E consonant, before the consonantal E, a vowel is long by nature. Before consonantal E. So what is consonantal E? We talked about this in previous lessons. It's when the vowel E is followed by another consonant. So before a consonantal E, an E followed by another vowel. Before a consonantal E, the vowel is long by nature. So here in the name Pompeius, we see the vowel E followed by another vowel. That will make this E consonantal. So we'll read this last syllable as use, use, and that E will be consonantal. The vowel that comes before that consonantal E, which is the vowel E, that will be long by nature. So its syllable will be long. All right, so just another remark here about some vowels that will be long by nature because of their relation to the other parts of the word or the syllable that they're in. A vowel before these consonant pairs is considered long by nature, and a vowel before a consonantal E is also considered long by nature, and therefore its syllable will be considered long according to this general rule. Now, you can see the remarks get into some detail, and I don't want you to be distracted or confused by that. Just be aware of what the remarks say, and if you're interested later or you ever come across a word and you hear someone say it and maybe you think it should be said in a different way, you can check it out and look up the rule and then look into the remarks and see if it says anything about that word. I'll give you an example in a little bit of a word that I had a problem with once that I had to do that for. But anyway, let's keep going here. Skip this note. That's really got nothing to do with what we're studying here. So quantity rule number 1, a syllable is said to be long by nature when it contains a long vowel or a diphthong, like mos or che. Rule number 2, a syllable is said to be long by position. So remember, by position and by nature, the two different ways a syllable can be long, by nature and by position. A syllable is said to be long by position when a short vowel is followed by 2 or more consonants, or by a double consonant. A syllable is said to be long by position when a short vowel is followed by 2 or more consonants, or by a double consonant. So here we have the word ars, which is just a single syllable. We have a short vowel, a, but it's followed by 2 consonants. That means this syllable is long by position. This syllable is long by position because the short vowel is followed by 2 consonants. Here we have in this first syllable, we have a short o followed by 2 consonants. So this first syllable will be long by position. Kolum, kolum. Here we've got 2 examples. We've got a short a followed by 2 consonants, so this would be considered a long syllable. Here we've got another vowel followed by 2 consonants, so we know that this will be considered a long syllable by position. All right, now here's an important example to look at because we see that this is also true for 2 words. So when 2 syllables are in separate words, this rule still applies. So here we have the preposition per followed by mare, per mare, which means through the sea. We have the short vowel e followed by 2 consonants. Even though they belong to separate words, the rule still applies. The short vowel followed by 2 consonants makes this syllable per long by position. And then lastly here we have the vowel e followed by a double consonant, x. And notice the rule, a syllable is said to be long by position when a short vowel is followed by 2 or more consonants or by a double consonant. X is a double consonant, so here we have the short e, we have 1 syllable where the vowel is followed by a double consonant. So this is going to be a long syllable, a long syllable by position. Nex, nex. Now, question that you should ask is why? Why are these syllables long? Because they're followed by certain consonants and things like that. And the reason why is because in order for us to articulate those consonants that follow the vowel, we have to intentionally slow down our pronunciation because those consonants are difficult to articulate. And when we slow down in order to articulate those consonants, it causes us to lengthen the vowel that comes before them. So that's why even though we have a short vowel, the syllable will be long because we have to speak it slowly in order to articulate the different consonant sounds that need to be made. So that's the reason for the rule. The reason why that's important for you is sometimes if you're just not sure whether the syllable should be spoken as long or short, or you're not sure where to put the accent mark, simply read the word and be careful to pronounce all of the consonant sounds, and you'll just feel where a syllable is long by position. You'll feel it. You'll be able to feel where you've got to say a certain syllable or speak a certain syllable slowly to get the consonant sounds out. That will help you to identify a long syllable. So it's not just a rule that we submit to. It's simply a rule that's based on how we actually pronounce words and how much time it takes us to pronounce certain syllables. So there is reason to this rule. Okay, so we've got two rules for judging the length of syllables. The syllable is said to be long by nature when it contains a long vowel or a diphthong, or when it's followed by certain pairs of consonants, or when it's followed by a consonantal E. We also see that a syllable is said to be long by position when a short vowel is followed by two or more consonants or by a double consonant. All right, that should be clear enough. You still have to study this on your own, but as far as me introducing you to the content of the rules, I think that's clear enough for you to study now. So let's go on down to rule number 3. A syllable is said to be short when it contains a short vowel which is not followed by two or more consonants. A syllable is said to be short when it contains a short vowel which is not followed by two or more consonants. So here we have an example. We have the word locus. Locus. We have a short vowel followed by one consonant. So this is a short syllable. Lo, lo, lo. Here we have the word tabula. Tabula. We have a short vowel followed by one consonant. So that will be a short syllable. Here we have another short vowel followed by only one consonant, so this will also be a short syllable. Tabula, tabula. Two short syllables. Tabula. Okay, so a syllable is said to be short when it contains a short vowel and is not followed, or I should say, when it contains a short vowel which is not followed by two or more consonants. And you've got these two helpful examples. Then we've got another remark here. A vowel can be short by nature. Before we learned about vowels being long by nature. Here we learn a vowel is short by nature. And one note here to avoid some confusion. Notice we're talking about two different things. We're talking about back up here in the first rule, we're talking about a syllable being long by nature, but we're talking about a syllable being long by nature. A syllable is long by nature. Down here, we're talking not about a syllable, but about a vowel being long by nature. So a vowel can be long by nature, and if a syllable contains a vowel that's long by nature, that syllable will be long by nature. So just realize that we're using this phrase by nature, long by nature, to talk about syllables in some of these sentences and about vowels in other sentences. So don't get that confused, okay? And here in this third rule, in the remark, we're reading that a vowel may be short by nature, but notice we're talking about a vowel here, not a syllable. A vowel is short by nature when it's followed by another vowel, or by NT, or by ND. So here we have the word deus, and it's important to note here that this is not a diphthong. It's two syllables, deus. We have the short vowel followed by another vowel. That makes this vowel short by nature, which makes this syllable short. Here we have the word innocentia, innocentia. We have a short vowel followed by NT, which is one of the pairs that are given here. A short vowel followed by NT, so this syllable ken will be considered a short syllable because e is considered short by nature. We then have amandus, amandus. We have a short vowel a followed by n, de, which is a special combination of consonants, so that will be considered short by nature. And remember, that's just a remark, so don't let that confuse or distract you from the general rule, which is stated here. Keep it simple. And that's all for article number 12. Let's go to article number 13. A syllable that ends in a short vowel followed by a mute with L or R is said to be common or doubtful. A syllable that ends in a short vowel followed by a mute with L or R is said to be a common syllable. And what that means is it can be long or short. A syllable that ends with a short vowel followed by a mute with L or R is said to be common. It can be long or short. And here's an example, and this is what I mentioned before when I said this is an example of a word that I was confused about on my own once and had to look up the rule to figure out why it seemed like the way that I heard people pronouncing it didn't follow the rules. When I studied this word, I assumed based on the rules that it would be pronounced as tenebrae, tenebrae, with the accent on the second syllable. Tenebrae, tenebrae. But when I looked in my prayer book and when I heard priests and monks saying this word, I noticed that they didn't say tenebrae, they said tenebrae, tenebrae, or tenebrae. And I said, why are all these priests and monks pronouncing this word wrongly by putting the accent on the first syllable, on the antepenult? And that's when I learned this rule that this word actually is a unique word. It's one of these words that contains a common syllable. And you'll notice here that in the middle where I thought it should be pronounced tenebrae, because we have a vowel followed by two consonants, I thought it should be pronounced tenebrae. It can also be a short vowel. So you can see the symbol here, it's long or short. If this is short, then the accent would be on the first on the antepenult syllable. It would be tenebrae, tenebrae. But if this is long, then it would be tenebrae, as we'll see in the next lesson. So the reason why I was noticing this difference between my understanding of the rule for how to pronounce it and then the custom of priests and monks to pronounce it differently, it was when I looked up this rule and found this rule about common syllables that allowed me to understand why the pronunciation of this word is as it is. So a syllable ending in a short vowel followed by a mute with L or R. What in the world does that mean? Well, look at this word. We've got a syllable. Let's just break this word down. The word is tenebrae. Tenebrae. We've got 1, 2 vowels and a diphthong, so we have 3 syllables. Here we see 2 vowels with a consonant in between them, and the rule tells us that the consonant goes with the second vowel. So we have te, ne, then we have be and er, which are 2 consonants, but they're 2 consonants that can begin a word, so we keep them together. So we have te, ne, brae as our 3 syllables. Te, ne, brae. Now, this second syllable, if it's a vowel followed by 2 consonants, it should be long. But because these 2 consonants are a special pair of consonants, a mute followed by er, that vowel can be considered short. We'd have te, ne, brae. Te, ne, brae. So that's the meaning of this rule here. So it would be true for br or p or ber or per or bel or pel, a mute followed by l or er. Now notice, if you don't know what a mute is, you can't understand these rules about syllables. So that's why understanding those divisions of consonants that we learned earlier in a previous lesson are important. Because if you don't know which consonants are mutes, you won't be able to use this helpful rule in Article 13. So Article 13 teaches us that some syllables can be common or doubtful. They can be long or short, and it explains to us when that happens. The remark says that in prose, which is regular writing, in prose, such syllables are always short. In poetry, they were short in early times, but became common in the Augustan or classical period. All right, so a remark that just explains something of the history of the common syllable. And lastly, in Article 14, we read, every diphthong and every vowel derived from a diphthong or contracted from other words is long. Let's read that again. Every diphthong and every vowel derived from a diphthong or contracted, that means shortened, from other vowels, is long. So let's look at some examples. We have here, we have the word sai-woos, and we see in the first syllable of this word the diphthong a. Every diphthong is long. So we have the long diphthong, that makes this a long syllable. Sai, a long syllable. So that's what it means for every diphthong to be long. What does it mean for every vowel derived from a diphthong to be long? Well, here we have the second example. We have concludo, and we see this second vowel, oo, with a long mark over it, is derived from a diphthong. It's actually from the word claudo, and here in the middle of the word you can see the diphthong, claudo, but that diphthong is contracted to make concludo rather than conclaudo. And so because that's contracted from this diphthong, or what's the exact word, derived from the diphthong, it's long. So con would be long because it's a vowel followed by more than one consonant. So this will be long, con, and then this will be long because it's derived from a diphthong, clu, and then this will also be long because it contains a long vowel, concludo. So we see every diphthong is long, every vowel derived from a diphthong is long, and we read that every vowel contracted from other vowels is also long. Every vowel contracted from other vowels. So here we have the word kogo, and we see that this is derived from the two words ko and ago, but the a is dropped out of this word. So instead of saying ko ago, we contract the vowels, and we have the vowel o, and the a is simply dropped. Because it's contracted from other vowels, this is long. All right? So we see the meaning of Article 14. Every diphthong is long, as in sai, woos. Every vowel derived from a diphthong is long, as in concludo, from conclaudo. And lastly, every vowel contracted from other vowels that are not diphthongs is also long, like kogo, which is contracted from koago. All right, so that's the meaning of Article 14. So that brings us to the end of this lesson. You can see these rules are going to be pretty challenging. You need to study them carefully. You need to study and look at those examples and see how those examples show you what the rule teaches. I've walked through each one of them, and I've done so pretty quickly. So maybe it will be helpful for you to watch this video again and sort of back up, rewind a little bit, watch an explanation of one of the words or one of the rules, then watch a little more and back up and watch the explanation again. You might need to go through the lesson a couple of times, but study these rules in Articles 12, 13, and 14 for mastery, and make sure at this point, by the time you're done with this lesson, make sure that you can divide a word into syllables and tell whether each syllable is long or short. I'll give you some exercises to help you practice this in the lesson for the assessments as soon as I get a chance. But study these lessons, study these articles, study Articles 12, 13, and 14. Make sure you understand them thoroughly. Take the time to master them. Begin practicing breaking words into their syllables and identifying which syllables are long and short. If you have any questions, post them on the course forum, and we'll continue working through this together. I hope that's helpful. God bless your studies.